Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Justin Lauria, and today I'm going to show you how to do my favorite thing in the entire world, which is how to ride a skateboard. Now, for those of you who've never ridden a skateboard before, one of the first things you're going to notice whenever you go to step on your new board is that you have to decide between one of two options. And that's whether you're going to skate with your left foot in front like this, or if you're going to skate with your right foot in front. So how do you decide which one you want to do? Well, it essentially comes down to each individual skateboarder's personal preference. So about half of skateboarders do it one way and the other half do it the other way. Some people think it has to do with whether you're left-handed or right-handed, but it turns out that that really doesn't have anything to do with it. Now, without going too in-depth on the topic, pretty much the largest factor that determines which way is going to feel most comfortable for you is just how much time you've spent practicing each way. So, for instance, if you've ridden a snowboard before, you probably got a lot of repetitions in with one foot in front of the other, so you'll know right away which foot you like better. But if not, maybe whenever you're riding a bicycle and you're coasting, you always have that one foot in front of the other one and you've got some practice in doing that. Maybe it's something else. Honestly, it doesn't even really matter. But the point is, based on your personal history, there's gonna be one way that feels a little bit more comfortable for you than the other one. So you just need to try to figure out which one that is and then learn all your basic maneuvers out of that stance first. That way you can establish a base to work from as you want to start learning more and more. Remember, you can always go back later and learn everything out of your other stance as well, and in fact, most skateboarders actually do. But if you're one of those people who doesn't know offhand which foot you like better in front, my favorite way to figure it out is just to find a hardwood floor and put on some socks, get a running start and slide across the floor in both directions and see which way feels more balanced to you, and then just use that way going forward. Now, once you know what stance you like best, one of the first things you're going to want to practice is how to get some speed. Now, we're going to get to that in a second, but one thing you might not think of right away is your safety, but let me be the one to tell you that whenever you start skateboarding, you're going to be falling down on the concrete in a way that you're not expecting at least a few times. So that means you need to do at least two things before you even step on your board. First, put on a dang helmet and some pads. It's literally so easy and cheap to just buy a set of pads right now versus if you break your arm and then you have to go to the ER and you have to get an x-ray and you have to get a cast and all that. So just take it from me, go ahead and invest in a set of pads and a helmet right now rather than waiting until you hurt yourself. And then the second thing you need to do before you get on your board is you need to practice falling down at least a little bit. So in case you didn't know this, one of the #1 skills that skateboarders develop in order to learn new things is the ability to fall down a bunch of times without getting hurt. So do whatever you have to do. Maybe you can find a bench that's next to some grass and you can jump off of the bench into the grass and fall into the grass. But whatever you do, just make sure you're at least pretty comfortable falling down from at least standing height before you ever set foot on a skateboard. That way you don't end up hurting yourself whenever you inevitably do fall off of it. All right, so now that we've got you all set up and ready to go, let's move on to the mechanics of learning how to ride on your board. Now, as I'm going through this, remember, you can take as much time on each of these steps as you want, but I'm going to teach you how to do it in the easiest way possible. So if you're completely new to skateboarding, here's what I want you to do to start out. So the first thing I want you to do is to just take your board and then try to find a surface that you can set it on that's going to prevent the wheels from rolling too much. So I've got this nice turf here, but also carpet works really well. If you need to, you can just set it in some short grass, but we're going to take your board, set it on that surface, and then we're just going to practice at first just balancing on the board. Now, whenever you go to step on, always take your front foot and put it on the board first over the front set of wheels, and then take your back foot and put it over the back set of wheels. Now, you can ride like this if you want, if you're more of a beginner with your back foot here, but as you start to get more advanced, you're going to want to slide your back foot and ride with it on the tail like this. Now, once you get up to speed, the best way to ride is to have both of your feet facing perpendicular to the board like this, rather than having one of your feet facing forward. So what I want you to practice while we're on this surface is taking your front foot and balancing on it for a second while you get your back foot on, rotating your front foot to be perpendicular, and then doing the reverse of that, rotating your front foot back like this, and then stepping off the board. Now, one last thing I want you to practice before we take our board to the concrete is just balancing on one foot at a time on the board. So whenever you're pushing and getting back on the board, you're gonna have to switch back and forth between balancing on one foot. And so we're just gonna take maybe your front foot and just practice seeing how long you can stay on the board like this. And then whenever you get to like 10 seconds, practice the other way. Maybe see if you can stay on the board like this for 10 seconds. Try to get a good feel for that where you're not falling off too quickly before you go to the concrete, and then when you get there, you'll feel more comfortable and you'll have a lot more success once we get over there. All right, so now that you've got a little bit of a feel for standing and balancing on your board, let's practice pushing off and getting a little bit of speed. So whenever you're ready to get started, probably the easiest way is gonna be like this. So take your board, find a nice, open, flat piece of concrete, and then set your board down and stand on either side of it like we were before. And then remember, always start out by putting your front foot on the board first over top of the front set of wheels. Now this time you're going to push off with your back foot and get just a little bit of speed. Remember, we're going to start out slow and then work your way up to going faster, but push off and just get a little bit of speed, and then try to get your feet on the board like we had it before, where your knees are bent a little bit and both of your feet are facing perpendicular to the board and you're riding. Now whenever you kind of come to a stop, do like we did before, rotate your front foot, push off a little bit more, and get your feet back like that again. Now, if while you're riding, it feels really difficult to keep your balance on the board, maybe it's wobbling around underneath you a lot like that, or if you're having the opposite problem, so you're riding and the board is steering off in its own direction, and no matter how much you try to lean the other way, you're not able to stay on your board, it's probably due to an incorrect adjustment of these bolts right here on the bottom of your board. These are called the kingpin bolts, and if your board's too wobbly, they need to be tightened down with a wrench, and if the board's steering off its own direction, that means it's too tight already, so you need to loosen them up a little bit. So once you have those adjusted properly, whenever you're rolling forward, steering is going to be a pretty straightforward matter. So all you're going to do is whenever you're rolling, and if you want to steer in that direction, all you have to do is put a little bit more weight on your toes, and the board will steer around in that direction. And conversely, if you want to steer in the other direction, just put a little bit more weight on your heels, and the board will curve around and steer in that direction. Now, if you want to get a little more advanced, you can turn even faster with a maneuver called a tic-tac. So in order to do that, first you need to make sure that you're riding in the more advanced way with your back foot on the tail, and both of your feet are facing perpendicular to the board. And then whenever you want to turn, you got to start out by rotating your upper body first. So if I wanted to turn front side, I would rotate my upper body front side, and then once that's ready, all you got to do is lift up your front foot a little bit, and then that's going to allow your board to align itself with the way your upper body's already rotated. Same thing if you want to turn backside. Just rotate your shoulders first, pick up your front wheels, and then your board will rotate around to align itself in that direction. Now, one last really important thing you're going to want to learn on your first day is how to come to a stop. So the easiest way is really similar to pushing. All you're going to do is whenever you're riding, you want to come to a stop, just take your front foot off and push it against the ground to come to a stop like this. Now that's going to work really great if you're going slow enough and if you have enough space to work with to slow down, but sometimes, or actually most of the time, whenever you're riding a skateboard and you need to come to a stop, it's because maybe you're going too fast or you're about to run into something and you need to right away get off your board safely, and it's kind of like you're in an emergency situation. So what you want to do is whenever you need to bail quickly, just take your back foot off of the board first like you always do, and just kind of take off running and use your front foot to kind of kick the board back behind you. That way you're not going to accidentally step on it whenever you're running forward off of the board. Once you get the hang of all that, a whole bunch of opportunities are going to open up for you in terms of places you can go on your skateboard and new tricks that you can learn. So if you need some direction on some stuff that you can learn next, I've got a great video series on that topic that you can access by clicking the link in the description section. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you all in the next video, and remember, never stop improving.